I don't know what you doing, bro. Why looking like any good? To Kessler in that fight in Denver, it was a close fight. I just laughed. First laugh. And I thought, I'm not losing to Salvador. Remember Captain Brain jumping in the ring, shaking around like that.
And he relishes it, he loves it, he enjoys doing it, and that's what's remarkable about him. You'd think at this stage that he'd think, well, you know, but he doesn't, he absolutely loves it.
Last 20, last 20.
Yes!
10 to go, 10 to go.
Carl Froch is preparing to absolutely demolish John Fury, and what's happening inside his training camp right now should have the entire Fury family terrified. This isn't just some casual workout routine we're talking about. The Cobra is moving through his combinations with surgical precision, his footwork looking sharper than fighters half his age, and that legendary killer instinct that destroyed the likes of George Groves and Mikkel Kessler. It's back with a vengeance. Every single punch he's throwing in sparring carries bad intentions, and sources close to the camp say Froch isn't just training his body. He's sharpening his mind like a weapon, studying footage, visualizing the moment he gets to shut John Fury's mouth permanently. And here's what's wild about all this. Froch didn't have to accept this challenge. The man's a Hall of Famer, a former world champion who's got nothing left to prove. But something about John Fury's constant trash talk has awakened something dangerous in Carl Froch, something that's been sleeping since he retired. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. The level of preparation Froch is putting in would make active world champions jealous. We're talking elite-level conditioning work that's pushing his body to limits most 47-year-olds wouldn't even attempt. His sparring partners are getting brutalized in there, and these aren't amateur fighters. These are legitimate professionals who are walking out of sessions looking like they've been through a war. The focus isn't just on throwing punches either. Froch is drilling defensive movements, working on his ring awareness, building that fighting instinct back up to championship levels. And get this, his team has completely cut him off from outside distractions. No interviews, no social media, no responding to John Fury's latest rants. This is pure, concentrated preparation for violence. The kind of camp preparation that turns good fighters into killers and killers into legends. Every session is designed around one goal, making John Fury regret every word he's ever said about Carl Froch.
Fight him! I'm a fighting man! Any man born from his mother, I'll fight him! Over 50 years old, on the hard road, in the ring, in the pub, in the back of a gypsy caravan site. You're not a fighting man, because I'll have a fight with you. I'll fight you for a five.
Now listen to this part, because this is where things get really technical. Froch's body sparring sessions are absolutely vicious, and there's a specific reason why this type of training is perfect preparation for someone like John Fury. Body sparring isn't about headhunting or looking flashy. It's about conditioning your core to absorb punishment while you're dishing out systematic destruction to your opponent's midsection. And here's the kicker. John Fury, at 59 years old, doesn't have the conditioning to survive sustained body punishment from a fighter of Froch's caliber. The Cobra built his entire career on breaking down opponents with relentless pressure to the body and head, and those reflexes don't just disappear. His sparring footage shows him slipping punches, countering with precision, and maintaining offensive pressure that would overwhelm most active fighters, let alone someone who hasn't competed professionally in decades. But what's really scary is how Froch is testing his own durability. He's taking shots to the body, absorbing punishment, proving to himself that he can still handle whatever John Fury thinks he can dish out.
Don't get lazy with that jab. Don't get lazy, you're missing. You're missing. You're missing. Woo.
Hold up, did you catch what's happening with the psychological warfare here? Because while Froch is quietly preparing like a professional assassin, the atmosphere around this potential fight is reaching levels of intensity that nobody expected. Every training session Froch completes, every piece of footage that leaks from his camp, it's all sending the same message to John Fury. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. This isn't some publicity stunt for Froch. This isn't about staying relevant or generating social media buzz. This is about a former world champion who's been personally disrespected, and he's preparing to make an example out of John Fury that will echo through British boxing for years. The energy building around this matchup is unlike anything we've seen in recent memory, because it's not just about two men settling a score. It's about the collision of two completely different worlds. Professional championship boxing versus street reputation. Technical excellence versus raw aggression. And right now, all the smart money is flowing toward the guy who's actually putting in championship-level work.
Finish with the hook and then box him on.
Yeah. Do you know what?
No, 1, 2, 1, 2 hook and then defense.
And get this, while Froch is training like he's preparing for a world title fight, John Fury is out here talking about bringing that old-school, no-nonsense mentality to the table. But here's what John Fury doesn't seem to understand. Carl Froch has seen every type of fighter imaginable. He's been in the ring with legitimate killers, guys who came to take his head off, and he not only survived but dominated them. John Fury's tough guy act might work on social media, might intimidate regular people, but he's about to step into the ring with someone who made a living destroying tough guys. Fury keeps talking about pride and toughness and fighting spirit, but Carl Froch turned fighting spirit into championship gold. He turned aggression into systematic destruction of world-class opponents. The difference between street toughness and professional fighting excellence is about to be demonstrated in the most brutal way possible. Because while John Fury is projecting this warrior image, Carl Froch is actually preparing like a warrior who's been to war and came back with the scalps to prove it.
I'm not an actor. You know, I'm not a gentleman or I'd be relation to gentry round here or in England, but I'm not. I'm just a.
But wait, it gets even better. John Fury, at 59 years old, is hitting the heavy bag trying to prove that age is just a number, and honestly, it's almost sad to watch. Don't get me wrong, the man's got heart for even attempting to train at his age. But there's a massive difference between hitting a heavy bag that doesn't hit back and stepping into a ring with Carl Froch, who spent his entire career making younger, stronger, more athletic fighters look like amateurs. Fury's relying on what he calls raw strength and old-school durability, but here's the reality check nobody's giving him. Raw strength doesn't matter when you're getting picked apart by precision punching. Old-school durability doesn't help when you're being systematically broken down by someone who knows exactly how to exploit every weakness in your game. The footage of Fury training shows a man who's trying to recapture something that probably wasn't there in the first place. Meanwhile, Froch is proving that real championship conditioning doesn't just disappear. Real fighting instincts don't just fade away. And real killers don't forget how to kill.
Go on, Big John! Put it in, son! Finish him!
Here's where it gets absolutely wild. Watch John Fury shadow boxing and you'll see exactly why this fight is going to be a massacre. There's aggression there, sure. There's intensity in that raw emotional energy he's known for, but there's zero technical sophistication, zero defensive awareness, zero understanding of distance, timing, or ring generalship. He's throwing punches at the air like he's in a street fight, not like he's preparing for someone who made a career out of solving puzzles inside the boxing ring. Carl Froch doesn't just throw punches, he sets traps, he creates openings, he makes his opponents make mistakes and then punishes those mistakes with championship-level precision. John Fury's shadow boxing looks like exactly what it is, an old man trying to convince himself he can still fight. But shadow boxing against air is completely different from facing someone who's going to be throwing back with bad intentions and the technical skill to make every punch count. The contrast between their preparation styles tells you everything you need to know about how this fight is going to end.
I want to watch Froch on fight because I'm quite sure Carl's going to rip the life out of John after today. I think John did a job. John did a job and got the excitement going, got people talking. That's exactly what he...
Now here's where the boxing world starts getting really divided, and it's exposing some brutal truths about what real fighting credibility looks like. Joe Egan came out swinging, basically calling John Fury's entire tough guy image a complete fraud. According to Egan, if Fury wants to prove he's a real fighter, he needs to step into a regulated boxing ring and compete under professional rules, not just rely on intimidation tactics and public confrontations. And honestly, Egan's got a point that cuts deep. Being loud and aggressive doesn't make you a fighter. Talking tough doesn't translate to boxing ability. What makes you a fighter is stepping into that ring when the lights are bright, when there's nowhere to hide, and proving your worth against someone who's trying to take your head off. Carl Froch did that for over a decade against world-class opposition. John Fury has spent his career building a reputation based on what he says he would do, not what he's actually done. The difference between reputation and accomplishment is about to be demonstrated in the most public way possible.
Because he called me a fake and a fraud, fake hard man. I will show him how much of a fake hard man I am. He's the one that's shying away.
But here's the kicker that should have John Fury seriously reconsidering this entire situation. Eddie Hearn dropped a warning that cuts straight to the heart of why this fight could be genuinely dangerous for Fury. According to Hearn, if John Fury tries to bring his street confrontation style into close quarters with Carl Froch, the outcome could be catastrophic. And he's absolutely right. Professional fighters are trained to respond to physical threats with immediate, overwhelming violence. Their reflexes are programmed to recognize aggression and counter it with precision and power that can end confrontations in seconds. Carl Froch isn't just going to stand there and let John Fury try to intimidate him. The moment Fury steps into range with aggressive intentions, he's going to get countered by someone whose muscle memory is built around destroying people who make that exact mistake. The scary part is that Froch's technical sharpness and championship-level experience mean he'll recognize openings that Fury doesn't even know he's creating. This isn't going to be a brawl. It's going to be a systematic dismantling by someone who knows exactly how to exploit every gap in an opponent's defense.
On Carl Froch, in his space, I think he would chin him immediately.
Really?
And get this, even the experts who are trying to be diplomatic about this matchup can't hide their bias toward Carl Froch. Spencer Oliver admits the fight is hard to predict, but immediately leans toward Froch because of his technical skill, conditioning, and championship pedigree. Think about that for a second. Oliver is essentially saying that while he wants to give John Fury a chance, the evidence overwhelmingly favors the guy who actually accomplished something in professional boxing. Froch's nickname, the Cobra, isn't just marketing. It reflects his ability to strike with deadly precision when opponents least expect it. His pressure fighting style broke the will of legitimate world champions, guys who came into fights with their own championship credentials and left wondering what hit them. John Fury keeps referencing his past confrontations with legendary fighters, but confrontations aren't fights. Talking trash to someone isn't the same as actually beating them in a boxing ring. The speculation around this fight exists because people want to see what happens when manufactured toughness meets authentic championship ability.
Well, we've just done 2 hours of training. Feeling absolutely fantastic. Cannot wait to fight. Listen, what I'm seeing here.
Hold up, here's something that exposes just how deep John Fury has gotten himself into this situation. Adam Smith points out that Froch's recent comments about the Fury family clearly struck a nerve, and that's what sparked all this tension we're seeing play out publicly. But think about the psychology here. John Fury is emotionally invested in defending his family's reputation, which means he's not thinking strategically about this fight. He's thinking emotionally, and emotional fighters make mistakes. Carl Froch, on the other hand, is approaching this with the cold calculation of a professional who's been in big fights before. He knows exactly what buttons to push to get Fury angry, off balance, and making the kind of mistakes that create openings for devastating counters. The theatrical aspect that Smith mentions isn't just entertainment. It's psychological warfare, and Froch is winning that battle before they even step into the ring. If this fight happens, whether it's in a professional setting or on the cobblestones like some old-school bare-knuckle throwback, Froch's composure and experience give him every advantage that matters.
At the Furies, probably over his time on his channel, maybe, I'm guessing, and John didn't like that and wants to have a fight with him, something like that.
It was something like that. I don't think he was still necessarily turning down.
Wait, it gets worse for John Fury, because this feud apparently isn't even new. Liam Go explains that the tension between these two goes back years, with Froch consistently calling out Fury and John responding with the same emotional, instinct-driven reactions we're seeing now. Here's what's fascinating about that history. Carl Froch has been playing the long game, building toward this moment, while John Fury has been reacting the same way every single time. That's not strategy, that's predictability. And predictable fighters get destroyed by technical fighters who know how to set traps. The fact that Froch has even proposed adding a charitable aspect to their conflict shows the difference in their approaches. Froch is thinking like a professional who understands how to structure and promote a proper event. Fury is thinking like a street fighter who just wants to prove his toughness. Boxing fans see this as the classic clash between authentic skill and manufactured showmanship, and history shows us how these matchups typically end. The calculated strategist with real credentials beats the emotional reactor with reputation-based confidence.
John Fury was doing that and goading Carl Froch. And I know John Fury doesn't like Carl Froch. Carl Froch mentions him, although I haven't really watched much of Carl Froch's videos lately. But Carl Froch, I know, has mentioned John Fury in the past. He's had a go with John Fury. They actually talked about having an actual, was it an exhibition or a boxing type match? And John Fury, any man, anytime, was saying words to the effect of, "Oh, I'll fight you, Carl Froch, but the money has to be right." And Carl Froch basically said, "All right, well, if we arrange payment, it can go to charity." And
now listen to this part, because it reveals everything about John Fury's approach to confrontation versus Carl Froch's approach to competition. Ade Oladipo describes how Fury's fiery personality drives him to confront perceived disrespect head-on, like what happened at that press conference. But here's the thing about confrontation versus competition. Confrontation is about emotion and ego. Competition is about preparation and execution. John Fury excels at generating attention and creating dramatic moments, but Carl Froch excels at exploiting his opponent's overconfidence and turning their aggression against them. The encounter Oladipo mentions generated maximum attention, sure, but it also revealed something crucial about both men's mindsets. Fury relies on intimidation and the hope that his presence alone will back down his opponents. Froch relies on precision, skill, and the knowledge that he can turn any opponent's aggressive energy into openings for devastating counters. When intimidation meets technical excellence, intimidation loses, every single time.
To get that call. Tyson Fury, I mean, that's jackpot financially. He would love that call. For Fury, it's a chance of becoming a world champion again, which obviously isn't Fury's drive, but I mean, it's a chance to become world champion again. Daniel Dubois, I'd love to see that fight.
And here's where it gets really interesting from a psychological standpoint. Gareth Davies points out that John Fury's confidence comes from emotional connection to his family and personal belief, rather than technical boxing logic. That's exactly the kind of mindset that gets fighters seriously hurt. Confidence based on emotion and pride is dangerous because it's not grounded in realistic assessment of ability. Carl Froch's confidence, on the other hand, comes from having actually accomplished what John Fury only talks about. Froch's confidence is built on a foundation of having stepped into rings with legitimate killers and emerged victorious. Davies suggests that Fury's willingness to challenge anyone reflects his confrontational personality, but critics are right to point out that such claims are more about public image than professional capability. When emotional motivation meets strategic sporting planning, strategy wins. When passion without discipline faces technical excellence with championship experience, the outcome isn't even close. John Fury is setting himself up for a reality check that's going to be brutal and public.
What John does, he's very, very, very passionate around his sons when they're fighting, and it gets something out of him. I spoke to him, right, literally face to face, and I said, well, what is upset? He said, I don't want people calling me out because I'll take any man on. Yeah. You know the comp.
But here's what makes Carl Froch so dangerous in this situation, and why John Fury should be genuinely worried about what he's gotten himself into. Froch's statement about being willing to face any opponent regardless of age or location isn't just trash talk. It's the mindset of a former world champion who built his entire career on relentless pressure and systematic destruction of anyone who stepped up to challenge him. When Froch talks about unconventional fighting environments, he's not trying to sound tough for social media. He's referencing the fact that he's comfortable in any situation where violence is the solution, because violence with technique and strategy has been his profession. Critics can call it theatrical all they want, but Froch's championship record backs up every word he says. He didn't just beat elite-level boxers during his career. He broke them. He made them quit. He turned their own aggression and confidence against them and used it to destroy them systematically. John Fury represents everything that Carl Froch spent his career proving wrong. The idea that toughness and intimidation can overcome technical superiority and championship-level preparation.
Man, any man born from his mother, I'll fight him. Over 50 years old, on the hard road, in the ring, in the pub, in the back of a gypsy caravan site. You're not fighting, man, because I'll have a fight with you. I'll fight you for a fiver.
Here's the brutal reality that nobody wants to say out loud, but that's becoming more obvious every day this feud continues. John Fury's public image has become a subject of ridicule among serious boxing fans, and this fight with Carl Froch could be the moment where that image gets completely destroyed. The constant self-promotion, the exaggerated storytelling, the theatrical presentation of toughness without the professional achievements to back it up. It's all building toward a moment of truth that John Fury might not be ready for. While his supporters believe he represents traditional fighting culture, the evidence suggests his style relies heavily on public bravado rather than actual fighting ability. Carl Froch represents the opposite of everything John Fury claims to be. Froch let his fists do the talking. He proved his toughness against legitimate world-class opposition. He built his reputation through accomplishment, not through confrontation and self-promotion. The humor and mockery that surrounds John Fury's persona isn't just entertainment. It's a reflection of how serious people view manufactured toughness versus authentic fighting credentials.
Of the king of the world. I think he's referring to Tyson Fury. You know, when you have kids, you know, most people, when they want to talk about their children, they might pull their mobile phone out and show a few pictures. Big John just shows his balls. That's where they came from. If there's anyone who needs a Manscaped advert, it's fucking John Fury.
The tension between Carl...
So here's where we stand with this Carl Froch versus John Fury situation. And honestly, it's reaching a point where the boxing world is divided between people who understand real fighting credentials and people who buy into manufactured drama. Froch's supporters, and this includes most serious boxing analysts, believe his Hall of Fame experience and championship mentality would be absolutely overwhelming for someone like John Fury. They're pointing to his pressure fighting style, his ability to systematically break down opponents, and his proven track record against world-class opposition. Meanwhile, Fury's camp is relying on confidence, aggression, and intimidation tactics rather than any actual technical boxing credentials or professional achievements. If this fight ever happens, whether it's in a professional boxing ring or some kind of exhibition format, it could become one of the most talked about moments in British boxing history. Not because it would be competitive, but because it would finally settle the question of what happens when authentic championship ability meets manufactured toughness. The smart money isn't just favoring Carl Froch. The smart money is expecting a complete and total destruction that ends John Fury's tough guy persona permanently. So here's my question for you, and I want you to really think about this. Do you honestly believe John Fury has any chance against a former world champion whose training like his legacy depends on it? Or is this going to be the reality check that finally exposes the difference between talking tough and actually being tough? Drop your prediction in the comments below, because I have a feeling this fight is going to happen sooner than anyone expects.